Hey guys, hoping all is well with everyone. So in this video we're going to be continuing the Crime Travelers Adventure Series Book 1, Brainwashed by Aertker. And today we're going to be continuing with Chapter 9. Just as a quick recap of the last video, it kind of ended where Lucas was brought to the Tier 1 table, and the Call to Legs meeting, led by Robbie and Sophia, kind of took order. And they went through all of the safety protocols revolving all the child labor stuff, and the very end of the movie, very end of the video, they were going to sit and watch a Good Company movie during the flight. And as always, feel free to follow along. I don't see any pictures in the upcoming chapters, but as always I'll show you any that we come across. Chapter 9, the in-flight movie. Emerald returned to the boardroom, pushing a beverage cart with Jeannie sitting on top. As Emerald passed out drinks, Jeannie seemed to be on a parade float, tossing candy and peanut packets onto the table. Everyone enjoyed Jeannie's slideshow, Nalini in particular. "Aww," she said, waving a bracelet bell at the toddler. "The baby Jeannie." The monstrous crackle of Cokes and chips and candy wrappers being opened together sounded like a small thunderstorm. "Ooh!" Jeannie peeped out as she grabbed at Emerald's hand. Out of the corner of his eye, Lucas noticed, or thought he noticed, a tattoo on Emerald's wrist. "Quiet down," Coach Creed bellowed. "It's movie time." Robbie pointed at a monitor. "I have 2 videos today that show where we are globally with the Good Company." A scratchy white snow filled the screens as the boardroom lights dimmed. Robbie talked over the frames, giving a play-by-play. Travis and Lucas opened a bag of gummy bears and dumped them on the table. "This clip was stolen by our agents in Waziristan in northwestern Pakistan, where one of our girls' schools was bombed a few years ago." The film rolled on the screens and almost came into full focus. A massive dust storm blew into a poor, remote village. A clump of boys between the ages of 9 and 14 was standing awkwardly outside a black bus with tinted windows. The boys were wearing masks. Russian-made Kalashnikov rifles were strapped over their shoulders. "These boys are known as Kuru Goons," said Robbie. "We have good reason to believe you may meet them in Paris." "Who are the—" someone in Tier 2 started to ask, but the film continued. While the video ran, Robbie pointed at the woman on the screen. "This is Siba Guenerro, president and CEO of the Good Company." Miss Guenerro ran a gnarled finger through her salt and peppered hair. She looked out through her cat-eye sunglasses and clapped her hands rapidly. The boys then tossed smoke bombs inside an old stucco house. Moments later, children in rags ran through a smoke-filled building, and the Kurukians dragged them onto a bus. Once the bus was full, Mrs. Guenerro climbed into the driver's seat and drove off into the desert. "One thing to note," said Sophia. "This bus is amphibious, meaning that it can travel on land and through water, provided that it is airtight." Robbie turned up the lights. "That's all we have for video 1, he said. Sophia clicked the remote, which faded the video. The screens filled with a photograph of an African-Asian man with long fingers and perfect fingernails and wearing a furry hooded parka. Specks of white ice dotted his pores. His smile showed piano-key perfect teeth. This photograph of Mr. Liu Banju was taken 12 years ago while on the Good Company's largest ship, the Lollipop, that often sails in the Argentine Sea, said Sophia. Bangu, as most people call him, was born in a Good Company refugee camp in Moldova some 35 years ago. He truly is a man with no country. He is now looking to buy multilingual children to help stage coups and overthrow governments throughout Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Americas. Robbie added, "Mr. Banju is currently the world leader in child trafficking." "Meaning?" Lucas asked. His eyes darted around the room to see if anyone thought his question was stupid. No one said anything. Sophia clarified, "Meaning that he doesn't kidnap, but that for the last 12 years he has bought or sold more children than anyone else on the planet." It's a He's a child tracker, said Travis. Pun intended. What pun? Corolla said. A child traitor, Travis explained. Is a child traitor. Everyone chuckled at Travis's cleverness. Robbie's voice cut the laughter short. Banju's main supplier of children, he said frankly, is... You guessed it. Nalini jumped in and answered. Siba, Guenerro, and the good company, she laughed. Too right for me. Labor, as you know, is rampant in large swath of the world, from Mauritania in West Africa across the Middle East to Pakistan and down through Indonesia. Kids are enslaved and made to perform all sorts of work against their wills. Some even become child brides. At hearing child brides, the girls all groaned at a collective, ew, and they began talking about it. Sophia clicked the remote and loaded the next video. The child bride conversation dimmed with the lights. Hey guys, please stay focused on the monitors, Robbie said. In Paris, tourist areas are filmed by the Ministry of Security. Travis's hacking job came up with this clip. Travis smiled. Actually, our comm team spliced this footage with some of our own shots filmed by a Resistance cameraman. The film jiggled as a cameraman ran through a park. He was breathing hard and there was a sound of crunching feet on a gravel pathway. Sorry this footage is a little blurry, Robbie added, but we didn't want a repeat of last year when our film crew was captured by the good company. The camera stopped and panned. Park benches, trees, tourists. The camera focused on a woman in a pair of cat-eye sunglasses that sparkled in the light of the sun. Again, this is our friend, Miss Guenerro, Robbie explained. Take a close look. Miss Guenerro leaned back on the park bench. She looked like an old actress in a long sequin dress, and she smiled haughtily. Robbie smirked. This might be the first recorded smile of Miss Guenerro. Ever. Everyone laughed, as joking seemed to relieve a growing and obvious tension. Robbie continued. She's smiling because the good company has just reported earning more money than ever before. Their stock is up, and it's mostly because of this guy walking up here, Mr. Charles Magnus, the lead of the good company security division. Mr. Magnus is an ex-cop wanted worldwide for theft, murder, and kidnapping. The film continued. Charles Magnus was a stocky, bearded man in his mid-40s. He wore a one-piece green leather uniform, the kind used by racing motorcyclists. There was tons of junk on his belt, a pistol, golden handcuffs, and a mobile phone. He sat next to Miss Guenerro. She blew her nose with a tissue. I love this part, said Robbie, interrupting. Just listen to this cheerful introduction. I hate Paris, Miss Guenerro said. The city is filthy. She flung the tissue on the ground next to a can of Coca-Cola Light. Miss Guenerro coughed. There's trash everywhere, and it's full of little French people who don't speak English. Charles Magnus said, Well, Siba, Paris is, after all, a French city. It's only natural that the French speak French in France. Over the top of her cat-eye sunglasses, Miss Guenerro glared at Magnus. Don't get smart with me, Chucky. I know you're proud these days. You think this new round of kidnappings will bolster profits and our little investors will be all giddy, but don't let it go to your fat head. Wonderful people, Robbie mocked as the video briefly paused and skipped, and then restarted. Astrid added, The good company is anything but. Charles Magnus said, My plan will work if we bring in neglected kids from all over. It will be like kidnapping Mexicans in the United States. No one will miss them. Robbie cut in. More proof that they are not only criminals, but also xenophobic racists. There was a great burst of outrage at Magnus's comment, and the next moment the room exploded in remarks. I hate them. They're a dreadful group. That's just wrong. We shouldn't even have countries. Even the normally very quiet Sorakawa spoke up. What a pity, she said. Coach Creed boomed. Quiet! Miss Guenerro opened a silver thermos-like canister. A thin, white mist curled from its top. She inhaled the vapor, closed the lid, and appeared to calm down. Then she hissed. Has there been any resistance? That's us, guys, Robbie interjected. Charles Magnus said, There's been chatter, but not to worry. If the new resistance shows up, I'll have some boys ready to meet them. Mrs. Guenerro asked, Kuru Goons? Charles Magnus said, Yes, I have a few groups mobilizing at the Globe hotels in Paris, and my A-team took out some new resistance sympathizers yesterday at the Eiffel Tower. So we know they know something. If it gets out of hand, I have some friends in the Paris Police Department who owe me a favor or two. Sophia paused the video on a picture of Charles Magnus rubbing his beard. I know I should know this, said Terry, wiping chocolate from his lips. What are Kuru Goons again? Lucas was relieved that he wasn't the only one who really didn't know. Kuru Goons are essentially hired killers, Robbie said. Most are boys between 10 and 18 years old. The older boys all seem to want to work as Kuru Goon security. They have zero education and little hope. You can spot them by their black uniforms and their peach fuzz mustaches. That confirmed it for Lucas. The boys who had pulled him into the van in the hotel parking lot were Kuru Goons, but possibly double agents of some kind. Robbie scanned the room for a second and let the information sink in. Lucas, he asked, you looked like you were about to say something. I'm fine, said Lucas. Go ahead. Robbie continued. Ms. Guenerro had scooped up kids in poverty from all over the globe, and she uses them for everything. There are conflicts going on, from Western Sahara to Burma, that have produced entire populations of children who know nothing but fighting. So when Ms. Guenerro offers a job to these kids, they take it and they'll do anything she asks. They've been known to sew her clothes and clean her toilet. But they're also suspected of strangling 2 tourists at the Eiffel Tower yesterday, which is why the tower is closed. Excuse me, Astrid sat up. What exactly is the derivation of the term Kuru Goons? That is a very astute question, Sophia said. Honestly, it's something we don't know and something we hope to find out. Robbie added, We've never been able to infiltrate the Good Company or the Kuru Goons at a deep and meaningful level. The video started rolling again. In the park there were joggers and a businessman on phones and an old man loading mules into a truck. The camera zoomed in on Miss Guenerro and Magnus still sitting on the bench. Miss Guenerro said, See that boy there? She pointed across the park and the camera panned. Charles Magnus said, Yes. The camera zoomed in on a boy in a Good Company t-shirt skittering around the park like a clumsy spy hiding behind trees and benches. Miss Guenerro chuckled. I hired him to steal me a poodle. Charles Magnus grinned. To keep you incognito? Yes, but you know I hate dogs as much as babies. Who doesn't hate babies? Miss Guenerro rolled her eyes. They can't work and they can't make me money. Charles Magnus cleared his throat. It would be easier to brainwash babies than teenagers. We tried that once, didn't we? Miss Guenerro asked. Yes, he said, but the nuns in the Tierra del Fuego ruined it. You still think brainwashing babies is a good idea? Miss Guenerro said. Charles Magnus responded deliberately. I have test groups already working in Egypt, Vancouver, and Seattle. You're a good egg, Chucky, she said. And then we would have an endless supply of workers. But I still have this order from Banjou to fill. After the carnival, Charles Magnus said, we will have plenty of well-educated children who won't even know they work for us. Robbie paused the video. Robbie, Lucas asked, what does an order to fill mean? We think, said Robbie, that Banjou is simply paying Mrs. Guenerro to kidnap kids for him. Drinks rattled in the holders as the airplane hit another pocket of turbulent air. The fasten your seatbelt light flashed as Captain Bannister broke in over the PA system. Sorry about that, folks, he said. It looks like the city has a few potholes in the road up here. As Zeta likes to say, buckle those belts now. Robbie scrambled back to his seat. Listen up. This is what we're looking for. Miss Guenerro chuckled. Soon. Charles Magnus grinned as he looked toward the Eiffel Tower. The French government should not have hired us from guarding the Eiffel Tower in the first place. Serves them right, Miss Guenerro said. If we were guarding that tower, those tourists would have been killed. Robbie, hold on a second, Mr. Bean said, looking around the room. I know this is a very confusing company to you all. The Good Company actually has legitimate businesses. My wife used to work for the Good Hotel Balai. She uncovered secret bank accounts and this child trafficking ring. Mr. Beans leaned forward and focused on the kids at the table. Mrs. Guenerro will appear to do everything in the open, but you never know what's going on behind the scenes. Just do the thing that has the highest value at any given moment, and you'll be making the right choice. Okay? Mr. Bean's words flooded Lucas's mind. He had always thought that the Good Company only did bad things, but that was a simple way of looking at the world. Everybody knew the good people sometimes did bad things. Now Lucas realized the inverse was true. Bad people sometimes could actually do good things. Robbie continued. This next section of video is why we think she's planning something big. Charles Magnus said, Are we ready? Make it happen, Miss Guenerro replied. Then Charles Magnus pulled out a small silver device and a key card from his coat pocket. Watch closely, Robbie said. Unfortunately, we can't hear what they're saying because a jet is flying overhead, so we don't know why they have our key card. Miss Guenerro put the key card into the device. They both looked up at the jet. Then Magnus said something as Miss Guenerro put the silver box into a shopping bag. Robbie paused the video and interrupted. That silver box that she's carrying, we believe, is a specialized keycard reader. Coach stepped up the main screen behind Robbie. He squinted and pointed at an object. What's that thing sticking out of her shopping bag? Coach asked. We think, said Robbie. He shrugged, that it's a snorkel. A snorkel? Terry blurted out. Yes, said Sophia. Remember, Miss Guenerro is a certified scuba diver, so it's not unusual for her to have a snorkel, even if it is a bit odd to have one in the middle of Paris. She is a lot of things. She's a concert pianist, she owns yacht racing teams and a sports car collection, and she even has an F-16 fighter for fun. Awesome, said Terry. Back to the video, said Robbie as the film rolled. Miss Guenerro said, By the time, they will have all forgotten about their mommies and daddies and everything else in their past, and we, only we, will have access to their brains. The video stopped, and the monitors went back and slowly recorded or reseated into the table slots. Astrid said, I mean, don't they have police in Paris to do this kind of stuff? The edge in Astrid's voice unleashed a fury of nervous chatter from everyone. The police can't find out a thing. They're in with Magnus. He said so himself. Chucky, you mean they've done nothing wrong yet? There's nothing to prove. Lucas couldn't keep up with who was talking. Typical, said one of the Tier 2 guys. It's not on their radar. We're watching their surveillance cameras. And there's nothing. Yet, it's on our radar. Of course it is, said Robbie. His voice boomed from the from the front of the room. We're the new resistance. But they don't know us, said Lucas. They do know us, Sophia corrected. They know the new resistance, but they don't know you, Lucas or Astrid. Remember, said Mr. Beans, they think you died on the ferry boat. Let's get a move on, folks, Coach Creed roared into the room. The best defense is a good offense. Everybody back to their regular seats. It took a few seconds, but most of the kids grabbed their laptops and tablets and headed out of the room and into the other sections as if they were changing classes at hotel school. Terry filled his backpack with snacks. Coralla laid her head on the table and fake slept. The Tier 1 and 2 girls clumped together near Sophia while she gave one last instruction. The video will be replayed on Channel 7 on our individual monitors, she said. Study it frame by frame. Remember, our primary goal here is to gather information about a possible kidnapping. That's all. Lucas spotted Jeannie on the serving cart. Emerald had stopped and seemed to be texting. Lucas was sure you weren't supposed to text on a plane, but he shook it off and caught up with Travis, Jackknife, Terry, and Robbie. Kidnapping, said Terry. What about the brainwashing ceremony? That sounds awesome. Dude, Travis stopped the group of guys. A brainwashing ceremony is wicked. In a tight group, the boys followed Travis into the next compartment. Travis pulled the other earbud out and let it fall to his shoulder. What would be cool would be to get it on film, you know. You told me a long time ago that it was dangerous, said Ch9. That's why I want to film it, said Travis. From what I read, Ms. Guenerro does some seriously weird things in there. She's got some freaky chant. You know, I actually feel sorry for those Kuru Goons that this happens to. I mean, everybody has bad memories, especially in the New Resistance. Ch9 interrupted. Yeah, but, said Travis, like Coach Creed always says, no matter how bad your past is. They all nodded and finished the line. You still don't want it erased. And I'll stop the video there, ending Chapter 9. And in the next video of the Crime Travelers Adventure series, we'll be continuing with Chapter 10. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and please take good care of yourselves, and hope to see you soon.